Before showing you the example of constant, let me simply show you first why we should use the constant and where we use the constants. All right, so first of all, let me simply show you an example. Let's say I want to calculate the area of a circle. So we know that the equation of the area of a circle is equal to pi into r square. R means the radius of that circle. All right. So let's say, for example, I want to calculate two circles area. So for example, for circle 1, my radius would be like 2, and for circle 2, my radius would be 5. All right, so let's say I'm gonna declare the radius r1 equal to 2, and the area circle 1 would be pi into r square. The value of pi is 3.1416 into r square, so r1 into r1. And if I want to calculate it, that would be integral like this. All right, so I have to give an if here, because by default when we don't declare anything like a for d, f for float, and d for double, Java by default assumes that this is a decimal value. So Java doesn't expect any radix point here, but as we want to use the float or double data explicitly, we have to tell that. So for example, as I'm going to use float, so I have to use capital F or a small f. Capital F would be better. Why is that? Simply watch the earlier videos where I explained each of them in details. All right, so for example, if I simply run this, here's the radius. So I can make it like this: area for circle 1, and yeah, cool. Now for the second circle, the radius would be integer r2 equal to 5, and float area circle 2 equal to 3.14168 into r2, into r2. And I can simply copy this print statement and change this here, area circle. So there goes our answer. All right, now you see that I have used this value repeatedly. So for example, if I want to calculate, let's say 1000 areas, I have to write this 3.1416f explicitly 1000 times, but that's not a good practice. Why I am gonna write the same thing again and again? So we use a variable, right? So let's say this is the value for pi, so I can simply declare the value earlier, for example like this: it float pi equal to 3.1416, and I can replace these values with this variable name. As simple as that, right? So you might say, yeah, we can understand it, that's how we should print, and we do print them like this. But why you are showing this for the video where you should talk about constant? Just wait for a little bit, I'm going to explain it to you right now. So for example, here in line number 5, I have declared the value for pi, and there it goes. But we know that the value for pi shouldn't be changed. For example, let's say I'm working here and mistakenly I have changed the value something like 5. The original value, or you can say the initial value of pi, was 3.1416f earlier, but here I have changed the value for pi for some reason, let's say. So if I simply run this code, I will get the accurate value for circle 1, but I won't get the accurate value for circle 2. Why is that? Because here the value for pi would be 5 instead of being 3.1416. All right, you can see the rapid change here, right? But you know and I know that the value for pi shouldn't be changed, so we use constant. Constant is something that's value doesn't get changed. If we consider a variable to be a constant, that means we know for sure that the value for that variable won't be changed at all, right? So here, as I don't want the value for pi to get changed, so I can tell Java that I want it to be a constant so that it also acts like a constant and the value doesn't get changed at all. How I can do that? For declaring a value to be a constant, we have to add final before it, before the data type. You see, when I have added the final, the updated value gets an error and it says cannot assign a value to final variable pi. Why is that? Because I have declared this pi variable to be a constant. So that means pi can only have this value and I can't update this variable's value anytime. Why is that? Because it's constant. The value can't be updated. So if I also try to update the value in any way, mistakenly or something else, it won't work. So in that way, we can use this constraint to maintain the constant property so that the value doesn't get changed and we don't get any type of inaccurate data like we got earlier while we have updated the value for pi to 5 instead of this. All right, so now everything would be just as fine like earlier. And if anyone, even for a bit, tries to change the value for pi, they can't change it because it has declared as constant. All right, now one more convention to tell you is that when you declare any variable as the final, or let's say constant, the convention is to use uppercase letter. All right, so I have to update all of them as well.